and Kamala Harris have vowed to take away your Second Amendment rights through gun bans, gun confiscation, and government regulations. Now, Joe Biden is no longer hiding his real intentions, and we need you to take action now.
Whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things. But
the Biden administration is coming after your right to own any gun, and we need you to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Joe Biden has already issued executive orders. He is now demanding Congress push through radical gun legislation. You can fight back to stop Joe Biden's gun grab, but you must text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Take action to protect your right to keep and bear arms. We urgently need millions of Americans to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221.
Everyone, welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation, and I just learned how to talk today. Joining me today is Mike Piwowarski of The Rundown, somebody who's been talking for a very, 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 very long time. Hundreds of years we're talking. Mike, thanks for joining us today, man.
Listen, that's just last week I was doing that amount of talking. You know, we're out there at SHOT Show, and first off I want to apologize to you and everybody else in viewer and listener land. We couldn't get that last piece of the connection to work out there with the internet speed they were giving us. It was rough. I apologize.
Yeah, both you and Craig were working furiously. It's a 30-minute show, and at 25 minutes they were still trying to get connected in, and just it never really happened. There was, from time to time we had picture, but the sound just never came through. So again, thank you for as much as you tried to get through. We just never got it done. But thanks for trying, man.
That's the hazards of live media, right? You know, sometimes that happens. And we listened and we practiced and rehearsed and we did everything ahead of time. It didn't happen. We used 3 different connections there. We jumped into another studio to try it as well, and just something was blocking it somewhere along the way. It just wasn't meant to be. But that's all right. Next year we're gonna make sure we do it twice from out there.
You know what? I'm going to just make a real fast suggestion. Don't use the ATF's broadband connection when you're there next time.
The AFT? Yeah, we got it.
So let me ask this. What did Mike see out at SHOT Show that he thought was super cool?
Oh, wow. Gun-wise, it takes a lot to get me to ooh and ah, just because of the stuff I've seen over the years, right? Like all of us. I think the Diablo 12 is what I saw and what I want. It's called the Diablo 12. It's a little 12 gauge, short firearm that you can carry. I'm looking forward to getting open carry now in Florida. I was going to be carrying my Serbu Super Shorty, but now I want to carry this Diablo 12. So, and then the second item is it was a safe. It was imagine if you took like the kind of square safe you'd lay in your drawer, but now stand it up, put a print reader on it, and use that to store your firearm. Now this guy had it designed for where you could get it out quickly, and you and I feel the same way about like fingerprints on smart guns, but this is on the case that held it. And this guy, he reminded me of a Gaston Glock. He just one day had made an idea to do this and never consulted how anybody else had done it, and found a way to make these fingerprint readers work in an instant. Now, he's not trying to get the gun to fire. It was to unsafe the gun, to put it back into his hands. Mm-hmm. I liked it in the reverse application, where if I had to get rid of my gun, Paul, say you and I, because we carry all day long, but now I got to walk into the post office or the federal building or the courthouse, and I hate leaving a gun in the car. That we tell everybody not to do that.
Right.
Well, here's a quick way to secure your firearm. It was really, really cool. So I like that. Those two products there, I think that when they come on the market within the next year, they're going to be owned by Mike. That's for sure.
Okay, very cool. I want to pop this on the screen. I did a very fast search for Diablo 12 because I wanted to see for my own eyes. I'm going to put this on the screen. This is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
That is one interesting looking, and I cannot call it a handgun. I can maybe call it a hand cannon. That's
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that, maybe the 6-inch, 8-inch barrel, and I think I'd probably carry maybe the shorty rounds in it rather than the full 2 3/4 inch. But that's enough right there to say, I'm not the guy you want to mess with right now.
Right.
Not the guy. Yeah.
That is a certainly get off my lawn. That will do the trick.
Right. But that's the one you can wear on your hip while cutting the grass.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
a great snake gun right there.
So the first story I wanted, we got a lot of stories to talk about today, but the first one I want to talk about also came out of SHOT Show, and that was a product that got introduced by, and I'm going to bring the story up here, simply because I want to give the company. Whoops! I brought up the wrong story. A company introduced a AR-15 that is We1 Tactical is the name of the company. They introduced a AR-15 chambered in .22 long rifle that is built for youth. Now, everybody in the world has seen the Ruger 1022 in a youth model. That's a little bit smaller. The stock is made for a smaller body. And nobody in the world has a problem with that. But somebody introduces an AR-15 that is weighted down with a shorter stock and built for the smaller body of a youth, and everybody's losing their minds.
Oh yeah, well, listen, people have to get uptight and out of hand over something. This was the one item that they decided to log onto. The AR or the JR-15, by the way, I believe is what it's called, the Junior 15, the JR-15 is how they've designated it. This is a brilliant idea. That I've seen the Smith and Wesson M&Ps. They're more lightweight because they're not made of the same alloys as an AR-15 is, so they're a little lighter weight, but they're still the basic overall size of an AR. With the collapsible stocks or fixed stocks on them. This one is said it's I think it's 25% lighter and 25% smaller. Like you said, they've shrunk it down. I did not get the opportunity to put one in my hands. I really wanted to see if the receiver set was smaller and how smaller it looked to the trained eye. But listen, anything that can help teach basic firearm safety, and make it simpler towards proficiency for today's youth. Why not? Whether it's the Ruger 1022, whether it's the Cricket, whether it's the M&P 1522, or whether it's this new JR-15. If what we're talking about here is, firearm safety and minimum proficiency, all that's going to do is save lives in the future, Paul. And how could you be against that?
Well, I want to get I want to get a quote in here from. See here. I'm trying to find out where. I'm getting this. The story is off of Bearing Arms, and Tom Knighton found a quote from Poe Murray, chairwoman of the Newtown Action Alliance. She says, the callousness of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which, by the way, is based in Newtown, Connecticut.
Newtown, yeah.
The callousness of the National Shooting Sports Foundation to promote a children's version of the same type of assault rifle that was used in a horrific mass shooting of 20 first graders and 6 educators in our shared community is just the latest proof that the organization and the gun manufacturers it represents will do anything in pursuit of continued profits. End quote. And it's just, NSSF has They simply represent manufacturers. That's what the NSF does. They put on SHOT Show. The SHOT Show gets the representatives of the gun stores together with the gun manufacturers. That's where the deals for what gets purchased throughout the year is done. And so this is not, it somewhat is. It's where the companies try to make a splash and get their products out to the retailers. Not so much to try to get the push to the public out, although that is generally the first start of that. I just...
that's the end state, right? A manufacturer creates a new firearm. They've got to go through distributors and dealers to make sure it gets buy-in, and then they'll take it and put it out on the market. But honestly, when I first read this story, Paul, the first thing I thought was, oh, they created an AR-15 for youth. I thought, well, we already have one. It's called the AR-15 because they are have a collapsible stock. They're light enough weight, and I can tell you, in anybody that's ever been through a basic training before in any military branch, watched your drill sergeant take the buttstock and put it on their nose or other sensitive parts of the body and pull the trigger and watch it not dance and bounce like Grandpa's hunting shotgun. It has that ability to self-sustain and be a good recoil off the shoulder because of the recoil spring and the buffer in it. So but this one, if we can again make this a little bit tighter group, a little tighter configuration to help get that firearm safety taught earlier, and then let's get it done.
And Mike, you're familiar with my sometimes co-host over on Polite Society podcast, Amy Dillon. And yes, Amy is all of probably, if she's 5 foot, she's in heels. I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
She's not a very large woman. And
listen, go ahead. I got an Amy story for you when you're done.
I would say she would be I would not cross Amy no matter what, because she is a certified badass, but how do you put this? When I go to any AR-15, I'm not a massively big guy, but still, I automatically take the butt of it and I extend it all the way. I think she would take the butt of it and extend it all the way in. I think this, if it were available in 223, might be her size.
Yeah. She is a petite one. I will say that. And like you said, she might be 5 feet tall. She's but stature physical stature is not everything. Let's explain to everybody that she was also for 12 years, I think, a Marine Corps drill instructor. While she was, she came by the Rundown. She came by Arms Room Radio at SHOT Show. Her and her fiance there, Dave Smith, great people, incredible people. We sat and talked to them for a while. My producer from California had never met them before. He is a big guy, big burly guy, a Fallujah Marine. He was there they'd say he was there in the stuff, man. He was back in back when it was nasty, when it was street fighting kind of stuff, and. He's got that kind of presence, and they sat down next to each other, right? And I introduced them, and I said, Billy, I want you to meet Amy. She's by the way, she's a former Marine Corps drill instructor. Billy took immediately 2 steps back without even getting out of his chair. He had that kind of fear. It was that staring back from like, why would you do that to me? Why would you? So, yeah, she's petite, but I think she could handle the Ma Deuce in her hands if she had to.
Absolutely, with or without a mount. I have no doubt about that with her. We got a comment in here real quick. Let me get that up here. George says, we like the JR-15 because we need more young men like Kyle Rittenhouse. George, I'm going to say we need more young men and women. More young women as well, George. But yeah, we need more young people that... Yeah, we need more young people that can safely handle the AR platform. Absolutely.
Now let's be sure. I'm going to make sure I'm understanding it right. It's my understanding that the JR-15 is only in 22, so that's plinking. Or I mean, you could go squirrel hunting, I guess, with the JR-22, but this is not the kind of thing you'd want to wield around for home defense or personal defense. If
it's the only thing that's available, yeah, I guess it'll work.
Absolutely, sure. If it's the only thing, yeah, exactly right, yeah.
But yeah, that would certainly not be my first. My first choice would be the 12 gauge, and honestly, it would be the full size 12 gauge, not the Diablo 12.
And well, there you go. I'll give you that. My first choice is the clacker part of the Claymore system.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. I want the next one I want to get to, man. Our good friend John Richardson over at Only Guns and Money did this one, and this I seen the opinion, or I seen the judgment come down a little over a week ago, but John is really big into reading opinions and getting deep into judgments. And this totally blew by me, but he wrote this today. The title of his story is Best Concurring Opinion Ever. And then I want to let me be clear about this. Last week, the Ninth Circuit in a 3-judge panel ruled that when Ventura County closed down gun stores in the pandemic, they violated the Second Amendment, and the judge that wrote the decision also wrote a concurring opinion. That's highly unusual, and I want to read just a little bit off of some of the concurring opinion, because he basically wrote the concurring opinion saying, look, we know this is going to go en banc, because they always do. Whenever we give a judgment that is pro-rights in the firearms arena, it goes en banc and it's always overturned. And so I'm just going to save you some work. Here is what you're going to say before you say it. He gives out a few things like, quote, we refer to strict scrutiny as a theoretical matter, a thought experiment, really. Our court has never ultimately applied strict scrutiny to any real-life gun regulation. He continued, here's the deal. Whenever we think this history helps us in upholding a challenged regulation, we're happy to rely on it in step 1 of our test. Example, Young 992 F3D at 784 to 826. But most of the time, the history either doesn't help us uphold the gun regulation, is indeterminate, or is just really hard to evaluate. So we usually just skip over step 1 of our 2-step test by assuming the challenged regulation burdens the Second Amendment protected conduct. But that's okay, because the real beauty of our 2-step test is its amazing flexibility at the various stages of step 2 in balancing the government's asserted interest versus the claimed impact on the core of the Second Amendment. And it goes on. There are a number of really straight-faced slaps at the en banc Ninth Circuit in this. And John writes, and I agree with him, he's not making friends on the Ninth Circuit by doing this, but God bless him for doing it. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I love that he concurs with his own opinion. That's wonderful, and and he has to, because listen, A plus B equals C, right? If it gets to the next level and they say, well, we only see one opinion here, not 2, like it should have had, well, and then they throw it out. It's I don't know, it's like you're trying to get a letter of recommendation from your vice principal and your principal in school, but the vice principal writes one and then he becomes the principal. Does he write another one for you? And I think that's what this judge has done here. He's found himself in 2 different positions, and rather than leave it up to common sense with only one, he wrote the concurrence to his own original opinion there. just to stifle them even further when it gets to the next level. And I love, listen, he's a Trump appointee. We know he was the Solicitor General out there in Nevada, Utah area, I think, if I recall correctly, for the U.S. government. And he is out there putting a thorn in their sides. And every day he does it, he just makes them a little bit more free. So it's great to hear.
Absolutely. I want to get the next story. And by the way, I want to tell everybody who's out there watching, we've been having issues getting Facebook comments in. I know we're getting them. And they're just not showing up. For some reason, my software is not popping the comments in, so I don't get them. I had to go actually look at the Facebook side to see that we are getting comments. And yes, we are, and for some reason they're not showing up in my software. But let me try one more time to adjust that. But I want to say, let me go over here and say, hey, Charlie, I will get to your question here in just Charlie Chambers wants to know any comments about Justice Breyer's retirement. Yes, we're going to get to that in just a second. And, let's get to that now because, Mike, I just watched the beginning of the rundown that aired just over an hour ago. I couldn't watch the whole thing because I had to prepare for this. But right. You and Craig had a really good conversation about that. And I want to dovetail about what you two were talking about a little bit. Breyer is not exactly a pro-Second Amendment guy. And by his retiring, he's not hurting us if Biden gets to appoint somebody. Because no matter who Biden appoints, if that person does get on the bench, he's replacing somebody who is ardently anti-rights when it comes to the Second Amendment. So damage done is going to be minimal.
Yes. Damage done will be minimal, but there's a lot of, it's like getting to the playoff brackets right now. You got to try and figure out what's going to happen in every possible scenario. If this team ends up tied and this team ends up tied, who's going to come in next? And that's the way Craig and I were looking at this. Let's say that Brandon here, President Joe Brandon, decides he wants to appoint. He's already said he wants to appoint a black female. And he chooses to appoint Kamala Harris to that position. So now the brain starts working. Does she have to resign from the vice presidency first?
Yes.
So she has to resign from the vice presidency first. But who has to be sworn in first? Who has to go to the confirmation first? The new vice president or the new Supreme Court justice? You have the timeline you have to worry about because you have the election coming up. You have the 50-50 vote you have to worry about. Right? She can't be the vice president because she can't vote herself in. Well, but that's nowhere in there. It doesn't say she has to recuse herself. Can she be nominated before she accepts the position and votes for herself? All this is things that start to run through the brain, and a constitutional scholar's got to dig through the Federalist Papers to try and find any reference to what if this would have happened. This is a way. Think about this. We know that the Democrat Party is not happy with Kamala Harris. This is a great place to honor her for her service and sit her and then let them put somebody into the vice presidency that they're happy with handing over to because Joe Biden is not going to complete this term or not going to run again.
Hillary for vice president, huh?
Answer. What's that?
Hillary for vice president, huh?
Hillary for vice president, exactly, right? I think it would probably have to be somebody from within government, more current than that. I don't know if that would follow, but remember that we're still looking at a 50-50 in the House or in the Senate. And I'm sorry, but there's no way a Manchin or the Arizona senator she's going to allow this to happen. I think Manchin would stand up and say, No. This might be what you Democrats want, but this is not what the people of West Virginia want. And I know I'm a Democrat, but I'm not doing this. So it's still not a done deal, or unless they make a backstage deal, So it's fascinating now to think about all the potential outcomes that could involve Kamala Harris here.
I'm going to take a little bit of a humorous step here, and the there are two names I've heard bantered about as possible. That Joe Biden has said, I'm going, when he was running for president, if I'm elected, I'm going to appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court when I get that chance. I've heard two names bantered about as possible Supreme Court picks. Neither of them have ever been a judge. First one, Kamala Harris. And second one, Michelle Obama. Kamala Harris is not black. Michelle Obama, yeah, okay. But anyway,
you know what? I'd have to double check. Didn't she lose her law license, Obama? Michelle Obama?
I
can't. I
seem to remember she did.
I think she did. I don't remember if it was voluntary or not. So there's a lot of, again, more answers that have to be found for the questions. So, incredible stuff. By the way, how do you feel if your mechanic or your let's say you go to a hospital, Paul, and maybe you have something like, I don't know, a stroke or a heart attack, and they tell you, listen, we're going to find the very best black female to work on you.
No thanks. No thanks.
Listen, she might be the very best black female, and she might be the number one out of 100 people. But when you're telling me you're only going to go after black females, that limits me to 5% of the total population. Yeah, hey, buddy, guess what? Hit the bricks. I want to choose from the best 100%, not the best 5 out of 100%.
I was very fortunate in that the people who run the Second Amendment Foundation have connections here in Sioux Falls, have connections within the medical community here in Sioux Falls. And when I had my medical issues last spring, they found out who the absolute number one neurologist was and made sure I got an appointment there. When I had my cardiac issues, they found out who the number one cardiologist was in the area. Made sure I got an appointment with that person. And I will guarantee you, it was never asked, well, is this a white male? Is this a female? They wanted the best, and they wanted to make sure I got an appointment. And that, yeah.
Listen, if I was an Asian man, a Hispanic woman, and I was an attorney, the moment they nominate Kamala Harris because she's a black female, I'd be filing a lawsuit. You know? I would say, why did you just rule me out? You just ruled me out. I'm a qualified attorney. You know, you just ruled me out because I'm not a black female. Here's my lawsuit.
All right, and Charlie Chambers, I swear to good, Charlie is absolutely psychic, because the one story we have yet to talk about, he has up in comments. Maryland gun ban challenged by 25 states. And that was the next story we were going to be talking about. That I got an email from my boss, Alan Gottlieb, earlier today, and wanted us to talk about that a little bit today. And yeah, 25, and we're not talking little puny. I mean, yeah, South Dakota was among the states that contributed to this amicus brief, but we're also talking states like Texas, Georgia, large population states that were part of the 25 states that contributed to this amicus brief. They're hoping to take down the Maryland assault weapons ban. I agree with Alan. Thank you to all 25 of those attorneys general. Hopefully it does some good.
Yeah, including Florida, the third most populous state that signed this. It's about time, right? It's all got together. The stars are lining up. We've had many cases over the past, 4 or 5 years that we hoped would get cert and get to the court, and did not make it. But now now everything's right. We're looking at, you hope, if everybody stays according to the values that they had when appointed as justices and confirmed. We got a minimum of 5 conservative, if not 6. We see Roberts tends to want to go with where the majority goes here recently. So we'll see, and this is a conservative issue. And the argument that's being used is, well, in Maryland, the assault weapon ban is not a popular weapon, so that's how they can continue to ban it, because it's not popular, and so therefore it's not a part of Heller, So because remember, Heller it's an everyday common use, so we can't get rid of certain styles of weapons, and McDonald. So we've got to that, but Maryland's saying, here's their argument. Well, it's not in common use here because it's banned, so it's not a common use weapon. Well, guess what? If you break the law and you say it's unconstitutional when it's not, and the Congress comes out and says it's unconstitutional, then we get to stop what you're doing. We saw this same thing in California, if you recall. Remember, this is what the en banc said after we had the last time with the Freedom magazine issue there. They said, listen, these magazines are not in common use here. Well, yeah, because you've banned them for 20 years. That's why they're in common use, not in common use. You can't take an unconstitutional act and say this is the reason why it's constitutional.
Yeah,
it drives me nuts.
Exactly, and I would invite any of the justices from the Ninth Circuit to take a trip east. You only need to go as far as Idaho, Utah, Nevada, although that's getting kind of questionable, in Arizona, and just go to any range and see how many 10-rounders show up.
Yeah,
that fit inside ARs or inside of Glocks, for heaven's sake. Standard capacity, the nation for pistols is 15 rounds. Standard capacity for rifles is 30 plus. So
it's my understanding, Paul, that the magazine ban, especially on ARs, is because if you have only 10-round magazines, that you couldn't possibly shoot or hurt or maim as many people as you had a 30-round magazine. Is that sum up their argument as you know it?
They've never heard of duct tape, have they?
Yeah, never heard of duct tape, and evidently never read the police report from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, because all the magazines used were 10-round mags. Because the shooter there said it was easier for him to put the 10-round mags in his pockets than the 30-round mags.
Yeah. And Mike, you've been police, you've been military. How many times have you trained to change mags, and how long does it take somebody trained to do a mag swap?
Less than 2 seconds. If you're doing it in over 2 seconds, listen now. If you're an individual carrying a firearm and you've got another one on a mag case, in your glove box or something like that, but on you, it should be less than 2 seconds on a mag change.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it should be very, very fast. And we're big shock. Mike and I have gone over time. I even forgot to look. We're over time. So I want to get one more comment in here because I think it's really relevant. Diane over on the Facebook side says, I don't really believe Kamala would even want this position. She has too much of an ego. Man, she's in the second most powerful position in the United States government. Does she really want to go down to being one of 9?
I don't think she has a choice. I think the party there has realized the detriment she is to their success, and they're going to tell her, listen, you're moving to the Supreme Court or you're moving home. That's your option.
Okay. So I want you to get your crystal ball out, Mike. We're right now, my crystal ball, admittedly it cracked when I had my stroke, but my crystal ball says we go very red in the House in November, and we go red in the Senate by, let's say, 4 to 5 seats. Not huge, but solid. I'm going to have you go forward 2 years after that. We're looking at a presidential election. Biden has said he's going to run again. Do you think he follows through that? And if you do, who do you think his his running mate is going to be?
I do not believe he makes it to the second term. I honestly don't believe he makes it health-wise to the second term. I believe whoever we see as the vice president, I've sat around for a while and thought there's no way they can hand this over to Kamala. They can't hand this over to her. There's no way she could win the presidency. We know that before. She only got 1% of the vote when she was running as president or running for president. Or now they want to. If they put her in there, she's an incumbent. That makes her a little harder to beat. But there's no way. She doesn't have. The nation won't give it to her. She's a condescending individual that has no tolerance for anybody except the elite, such as herself. And she even talks down to people worse than Hillary did. That makes it even worse.
Yes, she does.
She doesn't hide it, So it's just not going to happen for her. It's not going to happen for her. So my guess is as good as yours at this point, Paul. They have to appoint. They're going to have to select another vice president, and I think whoever that is will be the guy or gal running up against DeSantis and Trump there in the next election cycle.
Okay, which Trump?
Oh, it'll be DJT, number 45.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to go for 45/47. That's what he wants to do.
Okay. My brain again is not as quick. I'm trying to go the cartridge 40. What is it? 44. The government 44. 30,
I think it could be. We could make him the 45/70.
45/70. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
The government 45/70 is what I was trying to come up with in my brain.
Exactly.
So,
I think that's where he could go. Yep.
All right. Well, that we are 7 minutes over on time, Mike. As always, it is a fun time when we get to talk on Thursdays, man.
Love doing it, Paul. Again, apologies for last week. We made up 7 minutes of it from last week, so we're doing good.
All right. Another 2-3 weeks, we'll be all caught up.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. If you're just stumbling on the broadcast, please hit the like button. And if you're for the podcast, if you're stumbling on the video, please give us a like. Come back and join us 5 p.m. Central Time. If you happen to just stumble on the podcast, please subscribe. And either way, please share us with a friend. Thanks for watching, everybody.